A billionaire abandons his wife for a younger woman. Her revenge stuns the entire world. Power. It coursed through Robert Hawthorne's veins like the finest cognac, intoxicating and addictive. Standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, he surveyed the glittering cityscape below, a realm he ruled with an iron fist cloaked in a velvet glove. At 52, Robert had built an empire that extended far beyond mere wealth. His influence penetrated the highest echelons of society and politics, a web of connections and favors that made him untouchable. Or so he thought. The intercom on his desk buzzed, interrupting his reverie. "Mr. Hawthorne, your wife is here to see you." Robert sighed, annoyed at the intrusion. "Send her in." Laura entered the office, her delicate features etched with concern. At 48, she still possessed a timeless beauty, her chestnut hair cascading over her shoulders in soft waves. "Robert, we need to talk." He turned to face her, his expression impassive. "Can't it wait? I have a meeting in 10 minutes. "No, it can't." Laura took a deep breath, steeling herself. "I know about her, Robert." "About Emily?" Robert's eyes narrowed. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me," Laura said, her voice trembling. "I saw the texts, the emails. How could you do this to me, to us?" Robert crossed the room in a few swift strides, his presence overwhelming. "You had no right to go through my private correspondence. And you had no right to betray our marriage vows," Laura countered, her eyes brimming with tears. "I've given you everything, Robert. My love, my support, my loyalty. And this is how you repay me?" Robert's jaw clenched. "I don't have time for this. We'll discuss it later." "No, we won't," Laura said, her voice suddenly calm. "I'm leaving, Robert. I won't be your doormat any longer." She turned and walked out of the office, her head held high. Robert watched her go, a flicker of unease passing through him. But he quickly dismissed it. He was Robert Hawthorne, invincible and untouchable. Nothing could touch him. Emily Carlson checked her reflection in the hotel room mirror, smoothing her golden curls. At 26, she was a rising star in the modeling world, her porcelain features gracing the covers of fashion magazines worldwide. But beneath the glamorous exterior lay a fragile soul, scarred by a childhood of neglect and abuse. Robert had been her escape, a powerful man who promised to protect her, to give her the love and security she craved. But as the months passed, Emily began to see cracks in the facade. Robert's charm gave way to a controlling nature, his gifts becoming shackles that bound her to him. A knock at the door startled her. Emily opened it to find Laura Hawthorne standing in the hallway, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. "Mrs. Hawthorne," Emily stammered. I don't know what to say." "May I come in?" Laura asked softly. Emily hesitated, then stepped aside. Laura entered the room, her gaze taking in the opulent furnishings. "I'm not here to confront you, Emily. I'm here because I think we have more in common than you might realize." Emily's brow furrowed. "I don't understand." Laura sat down on the edge of the bed, patting the space beside her. Emily joined her, wary but curious. "Robert is a master manipulator," Laura began. "He knows how to make you feel special, cherished, like you're the only woman in the world. But it's all an illusion." Emily's eyes welled with tears. "I thought he loved me." Laura smiled sadly. "He loves the idea of you, Emily. The young, beautiful trophy he can show off to the world. But he doesn't truly see you, not the way you deserve to be seen." Emily's shoulders shook with silent sobs. Laura reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "I know you're hurting, Emily. But you're not alone. Together, we can heal, and we can make sure Robert never does this to anyone else." Emily looked up, her eyes glistening with hope. "How?" Laura's smile turned determined. "By fighting back, with the truth and with the power of our unity. Are you with me?" Emily nodded, a spark of courage igniting within her. "I'm with you." Laura and Emily sat in a quiet corner of a cozy cafe, sipping lattes and sharing stories. Over the past few weeks, they had formed an unlikely friendship, bonding over their shared experiences with Robert's manipulation and betrayal. "I still can't believe he had the audacity to propose to me," Emily said, shaking her head. "As if a ring could erase all the pain he caused." Laura reached across the table and patted Emily's hand. "That's Robert's way. He thinks he can buy his way out of any situation." "But not this time," Emily said, her voice growing stronger. "We won't let him." Laura nodded. "Exactly. And we're not the only ones he's wronged. I've been reaching out to some of his former associates, women he's used and discarded over the years. They're eager to join our cause." Emily's eyes widened. "You mean, like a support group?" "More than that," Laura said, leaning in. "A community united in our determination to expose Robert for the monster he is. Each of us has a piece of the puzzle, evidence of his cruelty and deceit. Together, we can bring him down." Emily felt a thrill of excitement mixed with trepidation. "But he's so powerful, Laura. What if he retaliates?" Laura's gaze was steady. "He might try. But we'll have strength in numbers, and in the knowledge that we're fighting for something bigger than ourselves. We're fighting for justice, for the right to reclaim our dignity and our lives." Emily took a deep breath, then nodded. "I'm in. Let's do this." Robert lounged on the deck of his yacht, a glass of scotch in hand. The Mediterranean sun beat down on his tanned skin, the azure waters stretching out before him in an endless expanse. This was the life he had built for himself, a world of luxury and indulgence where he reigned supreme. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. A message from his lawyer, urging him to settle the divorce quickly and quietly. Robert scoffed. Laura wanted half of everything, but he would never let that happen. He had worked too hard, schemed too cleverly, to let anyone take what was rightfully his. Emily's face flashed through his mind, and he felt a twinge of regret. She had been a delightful distraction, a beautiful ornament to adorn his arm. But in the end, she was just like all the others, a means to an end. Robert took a sip of his scotch, savoring the smoky burn. He had no need for love, for genuine connection. Power was his mistress, and he would never let her go. As the yacht glided through the waves, Robert closed his eyes, basking in the warmth of his own invincibility. Let Laura and Emily plot and scheme. He was untouchable, a king in his own right. And kings never fell. Laura stood before the assembled group of women, their faces etched with pain and determination. They had gathered in the back room of a small bookstore, a secret meeting place where they could share their stories and plan their next move. "Thank you all for coming," Laura began, her voice steady. "I know it wasn't easy, facing the memories and the hurt. But by being here, you've taken the first step towards reclaiming your power." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Emily sat in the front row, her eyes shining with a newfound strength. "Each of us has been wronged by Robert Hawthorne," Laura continued. "He has used his wealth and influence to manipulate, control, and discard us, as if we were nothing more than pawns in his twisted game. But no more." She held up a thick folder, her eyes blazing. "In this dossier, we have compiled evidence of Robert's misdeeds. Emails, texts, financial records, all painting a picture of a man who believes himself above the law and beyond reproach. But he's not invincible. And with this, we can expose him for the fraud he is." The women exchanged glances, a mix of fear and exhilaration on their faces. Laura pressed on, her voice growing stronger. "But we can't do this alone. We need each other, a community united in our quest for justice. Together, we will support one another, lift each other up, and fight back against the darkness that has tried to consume us. Together, we will find the light." Emily stood up, her voice trembling but clear. "I'm ready, Laura. Ready to take back my life and my dignity. Ready to stand with all of you, my sisters, in this fight." One by one, the other women rose, their voices joining Emily's in a chorus of solidarity. Laura felt a swell of pride and purpose, a sense that they were on the cusp of something truly transformative. The seeds of change had been planted, and now they would bloom. In the weeks that followed, Laura and Emily worked tirelessly to strengthen the bonds of their community. They organized regular meetings, each one a safe haven where the women could share their experiences and draw strength from one another. But they also knew that healing required more than just words. It required action, a tangible way to reclaim their agency and sense of self. And so, they began to plan. "I have an idea," Emily said one evening as she and Laura shared a pot of tea in Laura's cozy living room. "What if we create a community garden, a place where we can come together and nurture something beautiful, something that symbolizes our own growth and resilience?" Laura's eyes sparkled with inspiration. "That's brilliant, Emily. We could find a plot of land, maybe in one of the city's parks, and transform it into a haven of color and life." Emily nodded eagerly. "Each of us could have our own little section, a place to plant whatever speaks to our hearts. And as the flowers and vegetables grow, so too will our spirits, our sense of purpose." Laura reached out and squeezed Emily's hand, a gesture of solidarity and affection. "It's a perfect metaphor, Emily. Just like a garden, we have the power to take the seeds of our pain and transform them into something nourishing and beautiful." As the idea took root, Laura and Emily began to spread the word among their community. The response was overwhelming, a chorus of enthusiasm and support. Each woman pledged to contribute in her own way, whether by donating seeds, tending to the soil, or simply offering encouragement. In that moment, Laura knew that they were on the right path. The garden would be more than just a physical space. It would be a symbol of their unity, their resilience, and their unwavering commitment to justice. And as they worked together, tilling the earth and planting the seeds, Laura could feel the first stirrings of hope, a tiny green shoot pushing its way through the darkness. Robert stood before the board of directors, his face a mask of confidence and charm. He had called this emergency meeting to address the rumors swirling around him, whispers of impropriety and misconduct. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice smooth as silk, "I understand there have been some concerns raised about my personal life. But I assure you, these allegations are nothing more than the bitter ramblings of a scorned ex-wife and a few disgruntled former employees." He paused, letting his words sink in. The men around the table shifted uncomfortably, their faces a mixture of skepticism and unease. "I have built this company from the ground up," Robert continued, his tone growing more forceful. "I have poured my blood, sweat, and tears into making it a success. And I will not let a handful of baseless accusations tarnish my reputation or the reputation of this firm." He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "If anyone has evidence to the contrary, I invite them to present it. But until then, I suggest we focus on what really matters, the bottom line." The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Finally, one of the older board members cleared his throat. "Robert, we've known each other a long time. And while I have no reason to doubt your integrity, we cannot ignore the potential impact these rumors could have on the company. Perhaps it would be best if you took a step back, just until things blow over." Robert's jaw clenched, a vein throbbing in his temple. "I will do no such thing. This is my company, and I will not be pushed aside by a bunch of gossiping hens." He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "This meeting is over. And let me be clear, anyone who questions my authority or my character will find themselves looking for a new job." With that, he stormed out of the room, his fury barely contained. He would not let anyone, least of all Laura and Emily, bring him down. He was Robert Hawthorne, a force to be reckoned with. And he would crush anyone who dared to stand in his way. Laura and Emily stood before the entrance to the community garden, a sense of pride swelling in their chests. The once barren plot of land had been transformed into a vibrant oasis, bursting with color and life. Each section of the garden was a reflection of the woman who tended it. There were beds of fragrant herbs, their leaves a promise of healing and renewal. Tomato vines climbed trellises, their ripe fruit a symbol of abundance and nourishment. Sunflowers stretched towards the sky, their petals a beacon of hope and resilience. But the garden was more than just a collection of plants. It was a testament to the power of community, of women coming together to create something beautiful and meaningful. As Laura and Emily walked through the winding paths, they were greeted by the smiling faces of their fellow gardeners. Women who had once been strangers, united only by their shared pain, now laughed and chatted like old friends. They exchanged tips on pruning and composting, shared stories of their triumphs and struggles, and offered one another words of encouragement and support. Emily paused before a bed of delicate wildflowers, their petals a riot of purple and blue. "You know, when I first started coming here, I was so afraid. Afraid of facing my own pain, of confronting the truth of what Robert had done to me. But being here, with all of you, has given me a strength I never knew I had." Laura nodded, her eyes glistening with emotion. "That's the power of community, Emily. When we come together, when we support and uplift one another, we can achieve things we never thought possible." She gestured to the garden around them, a living testament to their resilience and determination. "Just look at what we've created here. A place of beauty, of healing, of hope. And it all started with a single seed, a single act of courage." Emily smiled, her face radiant with joy. "And that seed has blossomed into something extraordinary. Something that will continue to grow and thrive, long after we're gone." As the sun began to set over the garden, casting a golden glow over the flowers and foliage, Laura and Emily knew that they had found something truly precious. A community, a sisterhood, a force for change that could not be stopped. And with each passing day, their roots grew deeper, their branches stronger, their blossoms more vibrant. They were a garden, and they would never stop growing. Robert paced the length of his office, his anger simmering just beneath the surface. The board had called another meeting, this time with an ultimatum: step down as CEO, or face a full investigation into his personal and professional conduct. He knew it was Laura and Emily's doing. They had been busy, rallying their little band of misfits, collecting evidence and stirring up trouble. But he would not let them win. He was Robert Hawthorne, and he had built his empire on cunning and ruthlessness. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he barked. His secretary entered, her face pale. "Mr. Hawthorne, there's a reporter here to see you. She says she has some questions about the allegations against you." Robert's eyes narrowed. "Send her away. I have no comment." The secretary hesitated. "Sir, she says she has evidence. Emails, recordings, financial documents. She says she'll go public with it all if you don't agree to an interview." Robert's heart hammered in his chest. He had been careful, so careful, to cover his tracks. But if this reporter had even a shred of credible evidence, it could be the end of everything he had worked for. He took a deep breath, his mind racing. He needed to buy time, to figure out his next move. And he needed to find out exactly what this reporter knew. "Fine," he said, his voice tight. "Send her in. But make it quick." As the reporter entered his office, her eyes sharp and probing, Robert steeled himself for battle. He would not go down without a fight. He was a master of manipulation, and he would use every trick in his arsenal to protect what was his. Laura and Emily sat in the cozy living room of Laura's apartment, sipping tea and going over the latest developments in their campaign against Robert. The reporter's story had hit the headlines like a bombshell, detailing the depths of Robert's deceit and cruelty. "He's on the ropes now," Emily said, her eyes shining with a fierce determination. "The board is reconsidering their support, and his investors are starting to pull out. It's only a matter of time before he loses everything." Laura nodded, a sense of satisfaction warming her chest. "We've come so far, Emily. When we first started this journey, I was so afraid, so unsure of myself. But being a part of this community, working alongside such incredible women, has given me a strength I never knew I had." Emily reached out and took Laura's hand, squeezing it gently. "We've all grown so much, Laura. And it's because of you, because of your courage and your leadership. You've shown us that we're not victims, but survivors. that we have the power to change our lives and the lives of others. Laura felt a lump form in her throat, her eyes welling with tears. I couldn't have done it without you, Emily. Without all of you. This community, this sisterhood, it's been my rock, my guiding light. As they sat there, basking in the warmth of their friendship and the strength of their shared purpose, Laura knew that no matter what happened with Robert, they had already won. They had found something more precious than any fortune or empire. They had found each other. Robert sat in his empty office, the silence deafening. The board had made their decision. He was out, effective immediately. His reputation was in tatters, his company in shambles. And it was all because of Laura and Emily. He clenched his fists, a rage boiling inside him. How dare they, these insignificant women, bring him to his knees? He was Robert Hawthorne, a king among men. And kings did not fall. But as he sat there, stewing in his own anger and resentment, a small voice began to whisper in the back of his mind. A voice that sounded suspiciously like Laura's. You did this to yourself, Robert, the voice said. You chose power over love, control over compassion. You treated the people in your life like pawns, like objects to be used and discarded. And now, you are paying the price. Robert shook his head, trying to silence the voice. But it only grew louder, more insistent. It's not too late, Robert. You can still change, still make amends. But first, you have to face the truth. You have to confront the pain you've caused, the lives you've destroyed. Robert closed his eyes, a single tear rolling down his cheek. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never experienced before, remorse. Laura stood before the assembled crowd, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. They had gathered in the community garden, a sea of faces united in their shared journey of healing and empowerment. Today, we celebrate a victory, Laura began, her voice strong and clear. A victory not just over Robert Hawthorne, but over the darkness that once threatened to consume us. A victory of the human spirit, of the power of compassion and unity. She paused, her eyes scanning the crowd. Each of you here today has played a part in this triumph. Each of you has faced your own struggles, your own demons. But together, we have found the strength to overcome them. Together, we have built something beautiful, something lasting. Emily stepped forward, her face radiant with joy. This garden, these flowers and trees and fruits, they are a symbol of our resilience, our capacity for growth and change. Just like the seeds we have planted here, we too have taken root, have blossomed into something strong and vibrant. Laura nodded, her heart full. And as we move forward, as we continue on this path of healing and empowerment, let us never forget the bonds we have forged, the community we have created. Let us never forget that we are not alone, that we have each other. As the crowd erupted into applause, Laura felt a sense of peace wash over her. They had done it. They had taken their pain and transformed it into something beautiful, something powerful. And as she looked out over the sea of smiling faces, she knew that this was just the beginning. That together, they could face anything, overcome anything. They were a community, a sisterhood. And they would never stop growing. Robert stood at the edge of the community garden, his heart heavy with shame and regret. He had come to make amends, to face the women he had wronged and beg for their forgiveness. But as he watched them, laughing and chatting among the flowers and foliage, he felt a sense of unworthiness wash over him. Who was he, to intrude upon their joy, their hard-won peace? Just as he was about to turn away, Laura spotted him. She froze, her eyes widening in surprise. But then, to Robert's amazement, she began to walk towards him, her steps measured and calm. "Robert," she said, her voice soft but firm. "What are you doing here?" Robert swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. I came to apologize. To you, to Emily, to all of you. I know I've done terrible things, caused so much pain. But I want to make it right. I want to be a better man." Laura studied him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. "And how do you propose to do that, Robert? How do you plan to atone for the lives you've shattered, the trust you betrayed?" Robert felt a lump form in his throat, his eyes stinging with tears. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I'm willing to try. To listen, to learn, to do whatever it takes to earn your forgiveness. Even if it takes the rest of my life." Laura was silent for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "It won't be easy, Robert. The road to redemption never is. But if you're truly sincere, if you're willing to put in the work, then perhaps there's hope for you yet." She turned to go, but paused, looking back over her shoulder. "But know this, Robert. Our forgiveness, our trust, it must be earned. It cannot be bought or bargained for. It must come from a place of true remorse, of genuine change." With that, she walked away, leaving Robert standing alone at the edge of the garden. But for the first time in his life, he felt a flicker of hope, a tiny spark of light in the darkness. He had a long way to go, a lifetime of wrongs to make right. But he was ready to try. 1 year later, Laura and Emily sat on a bench in the community garden, the sun warm on their faces. The garden had grown and thrived, a testament to the love and care of the women who tended it. But it was not just the garden that had blossomed. The women themselves had undergone a transformation, a metamorphosis of the heart and spirit. They had faced their demons, confronted their pain, and emerged stronger, more resilient. And at the center of it all, a catalyst for change and growth, was Robert Hawthorne. In the months since that fateful day in the garden, Robert had worked tirelessly to make amends, to earn the forgiveness and trust of the women he had wronged. He had attended every meeting, every therapy session, every community event. He had listened, really listened, to their stories, their struggles, their hopes and dreams. And slowly, gradually, he had begun to change. To shed the layers of arrogance and entitlement, to confront the pain and trauma of his own past. To become a man worthy of the second chance he had been given. As Laura and Emily watched him now, working alongside the other women in the garden, they felt a sense of pride and gratitude. Pride in the man he had become, gratitude for the lessons he had taught them. "You know," Emily said softly, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad Robert came into our lives. Not for the pain he caused, but for the growth he inspired. For showing us that change is possible, that even the most broken among us can find healing and redemption." Laura nodded, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "He's a living testament to the power of forgiveness, of second chances. And in a way, he's become a part of our community, a vital thread in the tapestry of our lives." As they sat there, basking in the warmth of the sun and the love of their sisterhood, Laura and Emily knew that their journey was far from over. There would be more challenges ahead, more obstacles to overcome. But they also knew that they had the strength, the resilience, to face whatever lay ahead. They had each other, a community bound by love and purpose. And together, they could achieve anything.